Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be controversial. We're going to talk about women's dichotomy between beauty and value, how it has evolved over time and what women can do given this reality. My hope for this video is that you watch the entire thing before you start judging. Thank you. Social validation is really important for us as human beings. Some people might argue that
it doesn't matter what other people think of you as long as you're happy with yourself.
Although I can understand this point of view, I'm not too sure how far you can take this approach. There must be a limit on self-validation because we're not meant to be in isolation. We are social creatures. The only way to get our needs met is if the people around us actually value us. They see us as being good or positive in some way in order to keep us around on a physical and emotional level. But this is difficult for women because it puts them in a predicament. That is, society still values women the most based on their appearance. Now, when I say this, a very common pushback is that,
Ben, that's really shallow. We shouldn't judge women based on the way they look. They have goals, ambition, personality. They have a lot more to offer than just their looks.
Okay, what about the really beautiful women? I'm talking about drop-dead gorgeous. Do they actually hate the fact that people judge them based on their looks? Or do they think that it's a good thing and they actually prefer that people notice their appearance? You see, this argument usually comes from older women who are no longer young and beautiful. And perhaps there are some legitimacy to this, or it could be a coping mechanism. But if you're no longer young and beautiful, it's really convenient to say that looks don't matter. When in reality, you know they do. And the reason why you know they do is because you also judge people on the way they look. We all do. Now, I do sympathize with this because if you're really accomplished in all other areas of your life and you still don't get the attention and recognition that you deserve, that really sucks. However, that does not take away the fact that in today's society, women's looks and values are completely intertwined.
You're not looking at me.
You're pretty.
Do you think I'm pretty? Look at me. Look at me. Look at me.
You're pretty. You're pretty.
Now, we can sit here and argue all day whether we should or should not judge women based on their looks, but it's not going to change a goddamn thing. This is just reality. This value is deeply rooted at an evolutionary level as well as a cultural and social level. From an evolutionary perspective, men care so much about women's appearance because it was all about reproduction. It is sexual selection that allows each gender to develop the traits that will be appealing to the opposite sex. Men prefer women who are fertile and have good genes. Fundamentally, it boils down to her ability to have healthy children. This is the reason why women pay so much attention to their appearance. It's because of thousands of years of evolution and sexual selection that has demonstrated over and over again to women that that's what men care about. You see, women are simply responding to what men are interested in. If you want to learn more about sexual preferences, check out my video titled How Evolution Shaped Gender Preferences. Now, from a cultural and social level, ever since they were little, women have been taught, directly or indirectly, all the things that were considered desirable, beautiful, and worthy of attention. For the little girl, at first, it's just her natural beauty that gets the attention. But then she starts to experiment with makeup and certain types of clothing to accentuate her beauty. Then she discovers that certain types of behavior can get her even more attention. So she starts to develop a personality around all of the social feedback to try to fit into this mold that society considers desirable and beautiful. And as a result, this little girl grows up with this deeply ingrained psychological need to be validated on her looks. If you think about it, for her, this is the ultimate validation of her desirability. And if she doesn't do that, she doesn't fit into this mold, then she'll suffer the consequences of being ignored. This is why some women can spend their whole life feeling insecure about the way they look. So here we see the dichotomy in women. That is, they want the very thing that they resent the most. In other words, women want to be valued for their looks, but at the same time, they also resent the fact that they're being valued for their looks. Let that sink in.
I'm not pretty anymore.
Women want to be valued for their looks because that's their needs. They want attention, validation, they want to be considered attractive, all that stuff. But at the same time, they don't want to be valued just based on their looks. This is why we see a lot of the body positivity campaign and it's what on the inside that count type of propaganda. They give the impression that if you care about appearances, then you're shallow or superficial. Some women spend their whole lives campaigning against the fact that society still cares so much about their looks. But when they do this, they're still feeding into this idea that looks matter. You see, on one hand, women feel that they should be as attractive as possible in order to get noticed. On the other hand, they feel that they should not focus on the way they look because it makes them shallow or superficial. Now, this might be a controversial opinion, but I think we need to stop perpetuating this idea that looks don't matter. It's a different conversation whether they should or should not matter. The reality is that looks do matter. And we need to stop lying to women, especially young girls. They grow up constantly being exposed to these mixed messages that looks do matter. So you should take care of your appearances. But at the same time, they're also getting messages that looks shouldn't matter. So you don't have to worry about the way you look. This is very confusing because then you have to pretend as if you're dressing a certain way for yourself, but in fact, you're doing it to get attention. It doesn't do you any justice that you have to lie to the people around you, and more importantly, you're lying to yourself. I believe that it's much healthier for your mindset to admit when you are prioritizing your appearance. Now, I'm not saying that you should stop dressing a certain way to get attention or to be perceived as more attractive. What I am saying is that you should be intentional when you do it. You're dressing like this because you want to be perceived this way. You're putting on makeup so that you can get this type of attention. When it is a conscious process, it is a lot better for your mindset. Lying is not good for your self-esteem. Every time you lie, it registers deep in your consciousness that the reason why you need to lie is because you can't get through life with the truth. That's why you have to lie, and it makes you feel like a flawed person. Lying is absolutely corrosive to your self-esteem. Now here's another controversial opinion. For the women watching, recognizing that your looks and values are completely intertwined and no amount of shaming or complaining is ever gonna change this. With this understanding, I suggest that you accept this reality and use it to your advantage. Rather than pushing against this idea that looks don't matter, you should embrace that looks do matter. Not only that, you should prioritize or invest in it. In fact, you should invest heavily in it. If going to the gym or getting a personal trainer significantly increases your attractiveness, then what is the problem?
Push it out. Everything you got. Everything you got. Everything you got.
If spending a couple $100s to improve your fashion style to make a better impression, then why wouldn't you do it? If you can spend a couple $1,000s to increase your attractiveness by 1 or 2 points, that is arguably one of the best uses of your money considering the opportunities you'll get by being more attractive. Attractive people tend to do better and are given more opportunities in almost every aspect of life. Career, health, dating, relationships, friendships, and even in the justice system. So looks do matter, especially for first impression. As humans, we make judgment based on the way people look. The first thing we all pay attention to is how you present yourself. I'm not too sure if people can see what's inside your mind or your personality, but I'm pretty sure that if they don't like the presentation, they're not going to stick around to see what you have to say.
You are horrifying to look at.
On top of that, prioritizing your appearance is much easier and cheaper than if you were to prioritize other areas of your life, like personality, finance, family, and relationships. So you might as well start there. Again, all of this is just my opinion. Do whatever you want to do. If you happen to like this video, I got another one I want you to watch. It's about how your attraction can actually push people away, and you might miss out on many potentially good partners. If that sounds interesting, check out this video here. Till next time, stay curious.